What's going on with the Steelers right now, CC?
Well, the Steelers, and I know you love this word, the Steelers have what you call a situation.
Oh, I really thought you were going somewhere else. Situation I'm okay with. You said distraction, I probably would have hugged you. Okay?
I mean, they have a situation which has also led to several distractions.
There it is.
All right? And
got it.
And it really, I got to go back to last season when it ended, because this is where I believe it started. It started with Ben Roethlisberger. Now, people would be like, well, what about Antonio Brown with the Facebook Live? No, that just showed a lack of control that AB had, and how AB was about himself, his brand, and ultimately getting a contract that he ended up getting, where he's the highest paid wide receiver. So Big Ben says, you know, I don't know if I want to play any longer. So to me, that was alarming, because I know once I had started thinking about that, I had checked out and I was not the player. I didn't have the mental edge that I had before. My preparation was not the same. So I thought that would affect Ben this offseason. Le'Veon Bell, where does he come in? He's holding out all the camp. He wants a new contract. And there were comments by Antonio Brown during training camp, which is a no-no for NFL players. Never talk about another man's money, especially one of your teammates. Now, you can talk about, because when the Vikings were negotiating my contract, they always mentioned Jerry Rice. They always mentioned Michael Irvin. And they used to always kind of group me in with the class of them. I gave him my cell phone, told him to call Michael Irvin. The general manager called him. It was like, yo, this is a playmaker. I'm not here right now. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you. So I told him, first of all, San Francisco would never let Jerry Rice go, and we just called the playmaker. He not available. I'm your only option.
But your point is, you can talk about other players' monies on other teams as a point of comparison, but you don't. Antonio Brown doesn't talk about Le'Veon Bell coming to camp, because that's talking about Le'Veon Bell's money.
Absolutely not.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we finally get L. Bell in camp. He holds out as long as he can, all right, signs his franchise tender, and now he plays under a one-year deal. Now, AB is paid. Facebook Live, all that stuff behind him. Ben's decided to come back for another year. I think there's maybe a money situation with Ben. If Ben would have tried to walk away, you have to give back some of that signing bonus potentially.
$18 million.
Some of the sign, just some, a little bit.
And that's not. He would have been given
people aren't
salary
talking
for
about
this year.
Yeah.
This is important on the retirement angle. And I know we're bouncing around, but I just want people to understand it. It's not just that he wouldn't make his salary this year. That signing bonus is essentially, we're fronting you the money for services you will render.
It's prorated per season.
Theoretically, the Steelers could have said, if he retired, not only, obviously, we're not paying you this year, but you got to cut us a check for $18.1 million. And so that made some people question, did Big Ben come back because he wanted to come back, or was it because he didn't want to have to give that money back?
Right. So then we start the season. And then we have the protest. We have a team that's in conflict. All right? They have several. They have team leaders. They have a committee, which they get opinions on a regular basis. They meet with them. Mike Tomlin does a great job with that, getting the inside of the players. But this is a team in conflict because part of the team didn't want to stand for the national anthem. There wasn't a whole bunch of the team that wanted to stay in the locker room, which Mike Tomlin decided to do. He thought that was the best option. And now you have a bunch of players involved in political decisions, also the pressure that came from the White House. There were guys who wanted to participate, didn't know how to participate. And then you also have a person, a veteran, who has served. And he was conflicted as far as what he wanted to do, because he's been on a team before in the armed forces, but now he's on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he thought that what he was doing was the right thing. He wanted to observe the national anthem. So he left the locker room, left the group of players that were in the tunnel, and walked out onto the field so that he could observe. And then the optics got real bad. Then Ben Roethlisberger started talking about, man, I wish I could have been out there. This is something I couldn't sleep last night. So I believe this team has been in conflict for a while. It started last season with Ben, traveled over to the offseason.
So think about that, CC. Everything you just laid out, that all leads into, that has all happened prior to, and the anthem stuff the week prior to last week.
Yes.
And what happens last week? Antonio Brown, the single most targeted receiver in football, the last 4 years,
Yes.
the highest paid receiver in football, in a game his team wins easily, throws a temper tantrum. So you have all this bubbling locker room stuff. Then this happens. These guys know we're dealing with real stuff, man. We are dealing with, and now for the second time, first your Facebook Live and now this, we're dealing with nonsense when you should be the happiest guy out here. Nobody gets the ball more than you compared to your position. Nobody gets paid more than you compared to your position to do that. And what I think really, to tie it together, what bothered Le'Veon Bell is, you know what Antonio Brown's punishment for that was? To be targeted 19 times.
More touches.
That was the...
Well, matter of fact, let's start the game.
Right, first play of the game. AB, we got you, and we're going to throw to you more than any team has thrown to any receiver in any game all year. Again,
Going against a very good secondary.
Is that calculated?
Well, it'd be one hell of a coincidence.
Were the plays drawn up that way, do you think? Did they go into the week prior saying, all right, well, obviously he wants the ball a lot, and obviously he's going to be mad at us?
Well,
I mean,
the game plan is the game plan. That was the game plan.
That was the game plan, regardless of what AB had done the week prior, regardless of what Le'Veon Bell was complaining about.
It has nothing to do with... The game plan is based on the scouting and how they think the best way to attack the defense is. Okay. Now, it just happened to come after he had knocked over the water cooler.
So you're not saying that's why it happened. You're saying that's why it bothered Le'Veon Bell.
This is where CC and I, we're either going to disagree or I'm going to have to say the Steelers' scouting is faulty. Because if it had nothing to do with Antonio Brown throwing a fit, and it was just the scouting, then I got to question the scouting. Because Jacksonville, you know what they're terrible at? Stopping the run. Any team in the league give up more rushing yards per game? No, they're dead last. Any team in the league give up more rushing yards per carry? No, they're dead last. You know what they're great against? The pass. Third best completion percentage against the pass. Second best yards per pass. Fourth best interception percentage. They have a great pass defense with Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye. Yes. They have a very faulty run defense. So if that was just scouting...
No, that was the scouting.
Okay, well, then I think it was a flawed scouting report. That's not the way... Now, I'm no scout. It's not the way I would have attacked him. But for Le'Veon Bell's point. So, and I want people to understand how many targets 19 is. Hall of Famer Cris Carter, who set the NFL record. You were the record holder for a time for catches in a season.
Yes.
You were targeted more than 19 times once your entire career. 19 targets is... I am very confident saying at the end of the season, who was targeted the most in any game this season? It's going to be Antonio Brown in Week 5. And so you have Le'Veon Bell sitting there saying, well, this is... If I want 35 carries, by the way, when I got 35 carries a couple games ago, we beat the brakes off Baltimore.
But the only thing that makes this locker room worse than everything you laid out, which is just, you talk about noisy, that's as noisy as you're going to get. The only thing that makes it worse is if coaches' staff is listening to guys like AB and retooling the plays to make him happy.
Well, this is where Nick and his numbers and everything, because Nick and I are on opposite sides. I know how the game plan is directed. I know how it's installed. And I know there's numbers and everything to back it up. Now, Pittsburgh didn't seem like this was the best game plan. But Todd Haley and Mike Tomlin. But first, Todd Haley. Todd Haley cannot be bullied into making him throw you the football. Todd Haley is not that kind of a coach. Todd Haley has coached some of the biggest diva wide receivers and other premier offensive talent. That Todd Haley is going to do what he wants to do and what he thinks is best for the team. Now, if it was someone else, I would be like, you know something? Because we as wide receivers, we can put a lot of pressure on the coordinator and on the coach. And I know Mike Tomlin is a stand-up guy. This was the way they thought was the best way to attack. But every game that you don't give L. Bell the ball, it's a contract year for him. Right. So every game he takes it personal.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.